Right. Hello, everybody. Ty Crandall here with Credit Suite, and I have a really cool guest with me today. It's the first time, I guess I have to go this way on this computer, that we've ever done this before. This is Christine. This is one of our clients, and I wanted to actually have Christine just talk to you a little bit more about her experience with building business credit so you can kind of get some insight of what you can expect along the way. So, Christine, thanks for making the time for me today.
Hey, it's not a problem. I enjoy it every time.
Well, listen, so let's dive in and talk a little bit more about it. Now, tell us a little bit about your business.
Well, we're a long haul trucking company. We've also done equine hauling. We're actually looking to get back into the equine hauling. We've now transferred into reefer. We want to do flatbeds, dry van, pretty much anything you can get into in the trucking industry. We want to do as well. So
Cool.
we're expanding. We're moving forward, and definitely we've had some challenges, but we've overcome them and moving on.
That's good. Now, how long ago did you start the business?
We started in 2005. We went through LegalZoom to get our incorporation numbers. Well, not numbers, excuse me. We went through them to get incorporated. They gave us a DUNS number, and that's what I was talking about on the your scope this morning through Facebook. Is if you do LegalZoom, they will apply for a DUNS number for you. We didn't know it, so we had that since 2011 and didn't find out till about 2013, 14 that we had a DUNS number, and that we can use the EIN and the DUNS to build credit. We didn't know this. So everything started going along and trying to build credit. And like I said before, we had several companies that just didn't want to help us, it seemed. So,
So you started building business, I think, with a couple other companies. So what was that experience like?
yes. Oh, nightmare. Nightmare is the least of the derogatory terms I'm going to use right now. It was not as pleasurable as I would like. We hired this one company. They said they would fix our personal credit along with our business credit, help us build business credit. Now, as far as we got with them was three beginning trade lines, which was Quill, Uline, and Amsterdam Printing, which we still have, and that was it. They kept refusing to go forward. They kept taking our money. They tanked our personal credit because they dispute something off and it come right back on. So it was a nightmare, and all they were doing is just taking money, taking money, taking money. The second company was pretty much the same way, but we were putting it in this long list of people to get credit built. So when you got to the next step, you had to wait in this long, long line to get anything done. And I'm like, no, if I have to keep doing this myself, I might as well not pay somebody. The third one was a real charmer. There was no money up front, but the way they were doing things to get you funded was if you got personal guarantee cards or no personal guarantee credit cards, they'd pull the money off for you. But what they didn't tell you is you're stuck paying that credit card back and that loan that you took off that card. And if you default, you're out of luck. And then they
Sure.
would take, I think they said 10 points, which was almost like 20 to 40,000, depending on how much you got from your own credit cards, from the advances you took off your cards. So come to find out that lending that way was illegal. And I'm like, nope, we're not doing it. So,
With that.
you know,
So what did this lead you to? Like, what kind of reservations did you have when you initially got started with us here on the Credit Suite side?
I'd seen some of your webinars, and I'm thinking to myself, well, this guy's so full of himself. There's no way that I can do this. This is so full of himself. And keep in mind, this has been over a 2-year time span. So by this time, we're really ready to just shut down, say enough's enough, burn out. And I'm like, okay, let's try one more time. Started doing things your way. We already had the website. We had everything built up. We had the virtual office. We were told we didn't need the virtual office, so we transferred back to the home address. So um, when I started doing everything through you, it's like rapid fire. Everything started falling in line. I started getting insane amount of cards quick, and it was just easy. It really was. It was just no problem. But the thing is, and like somebody I'd seen posted on YouTube said, I had several years before. Yeah, that might have been true, but I didn't do anything with the credit. So it was like brand new credit starting
Right.
out. So
So do you think it's fair? Because we like to say that what we do is take years of business credit building and condense it down into only months. Is that kind of the experience that you had going through the program?
yes, yes, it is. It was and still is because we've slowed down on trying to get so much credit so fast because we did run into a couple problems. Um, we've also ran into, unfortunately, we had somebody co-sign and they declared bankruptcy and took two of the cards and guess what? That shows up as a charge off on our credit because of the bankruptcy. So we are now
Right.
disputing that off. But, all in all, I mean, we've had our challenges. We've had things go wrong. We've had things go completely right, but we're still able to do what we want to do. I mean, like I told you, we're still looking at the 107 acres in Ohio. We're just waiting on the owners
Right.
to come down off price. So,
That's
I
awesome.
got time.
So how long
So,
have you been working with us, working through the program, and how long have you been with us now, or working with us through the program?
I'm going to say a year. About
A
this
year.
time last year,
Okay.
September, November of last year.
And where
So,
are you now? Like, what kind of limits are you getting? What kind of credit have you been able to obtain? Kind of give us an idea of in that year's process, where you are now.
well, we are, we've kind like I said, we've kind of eased off and we left everything be. We're still at where we were, and I've tallied it up. It's over 200,000 in credit cards right now,
Wow.
and credit that we've got. We did apply for a truck, but we were turned down because the only reason the credit was good, but we just did not have enough trade lines at the time.
Okay.
So, which actually turned out to be a blessing because we just really decided to kind of hold back and see what's going to happen first with our company before we go adding more vehicles, adding more vehicles. And now that we know that we are going to definitely expand, where we need to go, what kind of vehicles are we really looking into, and it was just so much easier that way.
Sure. Makes
And
sense.
with everything, and unfortunately there was somebody, I won't say they got into our credit, but Experian had put a trade line on us, and when I did this, and this is one thing I will warn people about time and time again, if you do rapid fire, keep track of everything that is reporting. Look over the credit card numbers, everything that is reporting, because Experian will give you the last four of those card numbers. There was a trade line that it was similar to our DUNS number in EIN, was put on ours, and it was also a Citibank card. But because it was charged off, they closed out all of our Citibank cards until it's cleared up. And I've contacted Citi. They're willing to work with us. It's not a problem. They verified that it wasn't our account, but I have to go through all the legal process to get it off of there,
Sure.
get everything. And once that's done and over with, all my other cards will automatically reopen. So, I mean, I look at my Experian and it says it's 8 credit score, and I'm like, oh God. So I'm
Well, on the
like, that's
business
not
side,
good.
on the business side, you've run into your share of problems before us
Yes.
and during the process. That's what it's about. How helpful
Mhm.
has it been to have our advising team kind of be there and help you through the process to help you when you get stuck?
Oh, it's been amazing because I talk to you guys and I'll call in, I'll ask questions, and it's not people who like we don't know that. We don't know the answer to that. It's people who let if I don't know, I'll find out. I'll let you know. I will see what I can do. And then they call back and give me an answer or why has this done this?
Sure.
And if I have to talk to Dun and Bradstreet, I'll call in and I'll ask you guys to verify what I've been told
Right.
because they're just trying to sell me stuff.
Right.
So,
Right. What kind
so
of when you're applying for credit, and excuse me for people that kind of see me looking around and looking to the left, I have my questions right over here to kind of give me a guide and remind me of some of the things I wanted to ask you about. So if you see me looking here, it's not my ADD. I'm
that's
just trying
fine.
to kind of get an idea. So what kind of limits are when you're applying now? The most recent credit you've applied for, revolving wise, what kind of limits are you able to now get approved for?
Well, we actually the laptop I'm talking to you off of is through Dell. We just got them, and that was a $5,000 limit. Excuse me. We went through another Net 30, which is Granger. It's definitely something we're going to use, and we got initial 1,500. It's Net 30 terms. It's not.
Right.
I was like, that's not bad. We can use that.
Sure.
Um, I went through RTS, which is a fleet fuel card, and we have a $10,000 limit. They did bump it up to, I think, 185 to try and get us to use the card, but unfortunately, we didn't realize we had to put it through the trucking. So I called and asked them to bump it back down to the 10,000 because I don't need that kind of credit line right now. So, but it did spike up to 185. So we got quite a bit going on.
What's the highest limits that you've been able to obtain?
Uh, roughly around 20, 25,000 right
Okay,
now.
so about a year into it, you're saying, 25,000 limit accounts.
Right.
Have you tried to
Right.
apply for a loan yet since your business credit's really been well established?
We are actually in the process of going through a hard money lender for building at the
Okay.
moment.
Have
To
they
that way
looked
we
at
can
your
have
business?
a terminal we can place.
Have they
Yes,
looked
they
at your
have
business
looked.
credit?
There was a couple. Yes, they did look. There was a couple of trade lines that needed to be corrected because they were misrepresenting the payments, and that's another reason you need to check is make sure all your payments show up on time. And that's how I found out Sprint. That's why I found out Sprint actually reports to the trades. And when I contacted AT&T about switching to them through the business, I asked them if they report, and they're like, "Yes, we do." So
Nice.
AT&T and Sprint do definitely do. They do under radio telephone communications, so they are there. So it's definitely different. I think with AT&T, we were approved for like a $6,000 limit on phones, and I'm like, I don't need that many phones. So
But it sounds like you're getting, you've got Dell for computers, you're getting fleet credit because you're in the transportation industry, so that makes a
yes.
lot of sense. You're getting accounts for cell phones. What other types of accounts have you been able to obtain that are helping you grow the business?
Actually, we've kind of limited it to that for right now because that's what was our main goal at this point in time. Now we are actually looking to get into business buildings. We're looking to finance buildings. We're looking to finance not only the property, but also, more equipment, um, what we, the contracts and things like
Sure.
that, more
Yeah, so you're
employees,
looking to
everything
build
else.
business credit to get some of the credit you need, but then to also make you more
Hmm.
lendable to help open up the auto financing and
Right.
equipment and those type of things as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you obtained other gas cards, fleet cards since you're a transportation company that you can think of?
Not really. I mean, the only problem I run into is when I try through WEX, which is a lot of your cards are back through WEX.
Right.
Because and I've run into this many times, because we are transportation, they want either a net 7 or a daily withdrawal. And I'm like,
Sure.
daily withdrawal blows my account completely out
Yeah.
of the water.
Makes
So,
sense.
and that's something people in the industry for transportation don't understand is big companies pay it weekly.
Right.
They pay weekly, 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 or daily. And I'm like, I'm not a big company. I just need something. They're like, well, you've got the history of it, so it's either weekly or daily. And I'm like,
Right.
no thanks. So
With a lot of the retailers, are you able to now walk in for most of the retailers that you need credit with and get approved? Because it sounds like you've got a bunch of trade lines, you're getting $25,000 limits. Are you now are able to walk into most major retailers and start getting approved for the credit that you want to
oh
access?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, if I go to Ford right now, as of right now, I could just fill out the application and leave the personal guarantee blank, pick out whatever truck I want, and walk out with it
Wow. Okay.
without money down, without
And
a personal
the credit you've
guarantee.
talked about in Ford, none of this is without a guarantee or a personal credit check.
Mm-mm. Nope, no personal credit check, no guarantee. It's just me
So
and the business.
what are some of the accounts that you were surprised to be able to obtain? Because I know like we track a lot of your approvals here on our whiteboard, and you mentioned some of them today, but it seems like there's a lot more that we've talked through, I think, along the way that you've been able to get approved for. So what are some of the ones that maybe you're not thinking about that you've been able to secure that kind of surprised that you were able to get?
Well, one of the biggest surprises was when we got the Apple approval for 12,500. I mean, the guy that even approved me, he goes, "That's not normally how much we give out." So
That's
he's like,
cool.
"You must have done something right." And I'm like, "I don't know." But unfortunately, Apple was a use it or lose it one, so we never
Yeah,
used it in time. Unfortunately,
sure.
so now trying to get that back, they're like, "Oh, well, we can do 3 or 4,000." I'm like, "But you just gave me
Dude,
12,000 last year."
so it sounds like
So.
you were having really good luck. Some things happen on the report to lower the scores, making
Mhm.
it more difficult for you to continue to be able to get in to those. So Apple sounds like
Right.
it's good. Sounds like you mentioned Dell, you mentioned Apple, you mentioned some fleet credit, you mentioned credit for phones. What about did you try Sam's Club or Costco or Best Buy or Amazon or any of those
Uh,
guys when you were playing?
We have a Costco card. The limit is 20,000, and we're still good with that. We do have a BJ's card. That one is a cash card. That's 7,000.
And that's a Visa card,
We
MasterCard you can use anywhere.
Yes, Visa,
Okay,
Master you can use anywhere. We have tried Sam's Club, but because of the few hiccups and until they get fixed, they
sure.
said no. So, it's kind of, yes, we can get whatever we want, but
Right.
because we've noticed a few things, no, we can't. It's
So you
not
have
saying
some
no, you'll
hiccups
never
on
do
your
it.
report that are causing you from getting some accounts, but even with those hiccups,
Right.
you're still able to get 10, 15, $20,000 accounts.
Yes.
Sounds like you've
Yeah.
got auto vehicle financing. You're talking about being able to get phone financing for phones. You're able to get cash credit now, fleet credit,
Yep.
and none of this required a personal guarantee or personal credit check.
Nope.
Okay.
No.
So when you first got started, you have got to go through that credibility step to make sure everything is credible and you meet those credit issuer standards.
Hmm.
Um, what was that experience like for you? Because, I've got feedback that it's kind of a little cumbersome and a lot of people get into it and not know why they're doing it, the end result. What was it like for you going through, and were you able to later see the end result of what that netted you as you finished that step?
Well, it was kind of interesting because when I was going through these companies, I have some companies tell me you don't need a virtual address, or a virtual address is illegal. You can use your cell phone. You can do all the stuff that you're telling us not to do. So that's why we had it set up. And even under 411, it still pulls up an old cell phone number. And I'm like, that is not our number anymore. We did switch to a virtual office, and then one of the other companies said you'll get red flagged. So we put it back to our home address. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of people say you can
Sure.
do this, you can do that, and you can
Right.
have a PO box. No, you can't. So it was very aggravating, and is very time consuming and frustrating because you don't know who's telling you the truth. You don't know
Right.
what is the truth, what is not. So when people come to you and you say no, you can't have a virtual. I mean, you can't have a virtual address. You cannot have a PO box. You can have a home address, but no cell phones. So we did something else. We went to phone.com, got an 800 number and a regular number, and had it forwarded to the cell phones. So I was like, okay, I'm mobile. I've got everything here. So, and that worked out much better that way. So now looking back at it, I'm like, I should not have done half the stuff I've done, and I've built it so much easier. And
Right.
it's
Yeah,
just
and a
been
lot of that, and a
so
lot
much
of that
easier.
was before you got started with us. I think you kind of went through it. So when you got to
Yes.
our step one, it was almost a checks and balance. You probably had
Hmm.
already met some of those requirements when you went through. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
when you started to apply for credit, did you understand that step one, did the setting up the credibility first as the first step make more sense? Did you see direct instances where you benefited from making sure that that was done?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because then I'm looking at things going, oh yeah, now I see the reason why they want this. Why do they want that? And like I told you on the scope yesterday, when I pull up my credit on Dun and Bradstreet, I pay for it, of course, because it gives me the in-depth detail. But it has a picture of our home, and I'm like, that's kind of scary. I mean,
Yeah,
they got it Google Maps of your address, and they got a picture, and I'm like, that's a little too scary.
sure.
So
Well, that's one of the reasons it makes sense to try to use a virtual address. If you do,
right?
people are pulling that DMB report, see a big physical building in Tampa.
Yes.
It's much different than looking at a picture of your home. And a lot of people just don't even realize that that's the kind of stuff that lenders and credit issuers see.
Yeah, and I went through one lady. She built up this absolutely fabulous website and wanted to charge us, I think, roughly $700 a year. So I was like, okay. So I went through your guys' companies to see if I couldn't get it switched, but they couldn't switch it. So like, oh, forget it. So I went through GoDaddy,
Sure.
and for the entire year, for my husband's website, we paid $170 for the entire year.
Wow. Much different
And
than five, six, seven
yes,
grand. Yeah.
yes. And I set it up in an hour. I did this myself. And yes, I had to go through an autocorrect and everything, but I can backdate and age the website and everything myself instead of having somebody else build this up for me.
Yeah.
And it has saved so much money
Now,
doing it that way.
when you went through step two, you did that free check, or you did that check with the reporting agencies. In your case, obviously, you'd already had a little bit of business credit established. When you did
Right.
that check, did anything come up at all to you that was surprising that you didn't know was there?
Yeah, actually there was because we went through NAV to first check our DNB,
Sure.
and this is before we ever knew about DNB. So when we pulled up the report on NAV, and he gave all our business information. All he had to do was put a social security, and it pulled up his business. I'm like, whoa! There was actually, ironically, a trade line on Dun and Bradstreet that showed for 750 that we have no idea even to this day
What
who
it is.
it came, what it is, where it
Sure.
came from, and it was in good standing, so we just left it alone.
Right.
Now it's in bad standing and it's got an unfavorable comment, so I'm like, oh geez. So I had actually contacted Dun and Bradstreet about it before, and they've got it on record. So they're like, we'll just dispute it off. I talked to the fraud department. They're like, we'll just remove it.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
got
and
the
that's one
email
of the nice things
confirmation.
about, our program is, our advisors in our suite, you're able to go through and dispute
Right.
those things to fix those kind of inaccuracies, because that happens. In your case, that's exactly why we have the steps that we have, because, check
Yes.
your report because you never know what's going to be on there, and then
Right.
dispute anything you don't recognize, because like in your case, it went from good to bad, then the bad
Mm-hmm.
damaged the credit, and then it sounds like that inhibited your ability to get credit because that was on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
When you,
I went from an 85 to, with one unfavorable comment, to a 70. That is a big drop
it's a big
in
drop, right?
credit.
Which 70 is still
And
okay, but not as good as 85, right? So,
yeah, not as good as 85. I mean, yeah, we had a couple late payments here and there because of my accident in February, but going from 85 down here, it's like, oh Lord.
right.
So yeah,
So,
but
so now,
once oh, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So in step three, then this is when you start building vendor credit accounts, and you came
Yes.
into us with a couple established and got stuck. So was it helpful for you to access all the vendors that we had there to help you get the 5 you needed to then start moving to the revolving accounts?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because once we realized who we needed to go through and who we can contact, and you guys give the information, what they're going to ask for, what the requirements are, who they report to, it made it so much more easier than to scour the internet and see who can we try to apply for.
Right.
And it made it so much easier. And like I said, the approvals just started, here we go, left and right. I mean, automatically. I think we got 15 accounts within less than 2 months.
Wow. And
So
before you came to us, you're talking about 2 or 3 accounts that you'd paid multiple
right.
companies for, done it yourself too, and been working on it for years before you got any kind of approval.
Yes.
So you were able to get a lot of. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because a lot of these companies that were telling me, once you have that 80 score, you can do whatever you want with it. Well, that's true, but what they don't tell you is you need 10 trade lines,
Right.
at least between 7 to 10, depending on your score, for vehicle financing.
Sure.
You need 10 to 15 for cash credit cards, also depending on your score. So they don't tell you that. They just
Right.
want you to keep paying in and paying in, paying in. And it's like a never-ending cycle. Then they're like, oh, you got to personally guarantee this. I'm like,
Right.
if my business credit's good enough, I'm putting it under the business.
Right. So you
Sorry,
really
I'm
saw
not.
the benefit of us mapping it out tier by tier, the steps to
Yes.
apply for, telling you how many accounts you need for approval, and then giving you those individual underwriting guidelines so you could know you
Right.
could get approved. And it sounds like once you had access to that information, you keep referring to it as rapid fire. You were just able to come in and start
Yes.
getting approval for almost anything that it is that you
Yes. Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, even though we are at that point now that we can get back to the quote-unquote rapid fire, I'm not going to do that because there's too many. If you do that, you've got to keep extreme eye on the accounts because
Right.
that is where mistakes are made. So
Sure.
we can,
And people that haven't done this don't understand, but commercial credit reports don't show you a creditor name. So
No.
what you're ultimately saying is you got to keep track of it because stuff will start to report so fast that you don't even know which creditor that is. And then when
Right.
things go wrong or you need to fix it, you're not even sure who to dispute with or who to fix it with
Right.
because of that, right? Okay.
Right. Because
Now,
Experian was kind enough to give me Citibank's number. They're like, well, here's, we can't tell you what creditor, who it was through, that
Right.
applied for it. But here's the, obviously the last four was shown on the report. So I called Citibank. They said it's a Citibank card, and I'm like, look, I got this line. Here's the last four of it. Can we verify if I'm on this account or not? And they said, no, you're not. And then he gave me the fraud department's number. Said, give us a letter on company letterhead stating it's not your account. Please remove it. It's fraudulent. It'll take 60 to 90 days to go through that process, and we're probably, I'd say, about 45 days in, but I contacted them. They're more than willing to help. All you have to do is just call these lenders and ask. If you don't recognize something, pull out every single card you got and match it to the accounts. And if you see something you don't recognize, dispute it. Get rid of it, because even if it shows good now, it could turn bad later.
Right.
Because that.
Now, earlier, I know it sounds like you've got 15, 20 plus accounts now, and earlier you mentioned probably 5, 6, 7. So I want to look at my whiteboard over here and just read some of these just to see if any of these names sound familiar with ones maybe you've applied for some of these, been approved, maybe not. So on starter accounts, Uline Quill.
Yes.
Did you get
Yes.
both of those? Okay.
We have both.
Office Depot, Granger, Seton.
Yep. We don't have Seton.
So what kind of limits were you, kind of give me an idea of what kind of limits that you received with them as you actually got approved?
For Office Depot was, I believe, 15,000, 15 to 20,000. Which one? Seton and Granger was 1,500. We don't have Seton. Uline was, I think, like a $800 or $900 limit.
Yeah. Those were your starters.
Yeah, the starter Quill gave us 350. But that we really didn't use that one very much. I mean, there's only so much toilet paper you can buy. So.
And that's the thing is that, so you're just using those vendor accounts to build the initial credit profile and score. You realize that it's score and trade lines. You got the accounts to get you the trade lines, and then you started to move into the 15,000 with Office Depot, et cetera.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And then you said 12.5 at Apple, Amazon, Tractor Supply, BP, Chevron. Did you apply for any of those?
I don't have Amazon, and I don't have BP. No, we have BP. That was 8,000. Chevron, we don't have.
Okay. Tractor Supply, Fuelman, Fleet, Shell.
We have Shell. That was a 20,000. Tractor Supply was 5,000. And then I do remember we have Sears, which was another 20,000. And oh goodness, we have Sunoco, which was another 15. And shoot,
we talked about Sprint, I think, being for 6.
Yeah.
What about BJ's for 7? What about Best Buy? And you said Ford. I think we talked about 40.
Best Buy was actually our highest limit. Best Buy was another use it or lose it trade line. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the space for $40,000 worth of equipment. So
you were able to get 40,000 then with Best Buy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, at Best Buy we got 40 grand.
And you're in the transportation industry,
yeah.
So you got as high as $40,000 limit then with Best Buy. But it sounds like since Apple and Best Buy, you're just not in places where electronics really even are something you need. It sounds like it's the fleet cards, the gas cards. That's the stuff where it sounds like you're using the most, right? Okay.
Right. Well, that's one reason why we're purchasing the building, so that way we can use the 40,000 in Best Buy for the equipment, the computers, the update, the software, all that. And then the Apple products that I like to go mobile with my stuff and keep stuff, connected. So that way it's just another avenue for us. So
what about Lowe's and Home Depot? Anything along those lines? I think you said how much was Sears? Like 15,000 was Sears. Did you apply?
Sears was 20,000.
20. Okay.
We did try for Lowe's, and I think they said no because of the location of our home. It was a home-based address, so and since we still kept it that way, I know they'll say no again.
And so this is a great example, because we tell people all the time that, look, your home address isn't going to prevent you from getting approved for all accounts, as you've proven, but it will prevent you from getting approved for some accounts, which you run into.
Right. Now, I have contacted a company called ABC Roofing.
Okay.
And they do offer net 30 terms, but they have given me a preliminary, this is just a preliminary approval of 75,000.
Wow. So that's the highest approval I have ever heard of. And this is new to me. I didn't know that. So I mean,
they're also a construction company, and that it kind of goes hand in hand with the property we're looking at in Ohio, because I explained to them what's going to need to be done to it, and they're like, all right, well, we can approve you up to 75,000. That was on what the credit was at that point in time. And since we're still working on closing on this property, he said it can go up because we're looking at least 3 to 4 barns, and it's like 20,000 each for the roofs. So that's, it's quite a bit of money
Money, right.
going to be put out.
And that's the thing is people think these limits are so high, but you've said time and time again, I need these high of limits to do what
Yes.
I'm doing. So it
Yes.
sounds like you're talking about 15, 20, 40, $75,000 approvals that you've been able to
Mm-hmm.
obtain in the year you've been working with us,
Yes.
individual approvals without a personal guarantee, without a personal credit check.
Nope.
We've talked about office supplies, I think, at Office Depot. We've talked about computers at Apple. You've been able to get approved at places like Best Buy. I think Costco is one that you mentioned that you were able to get 20. Auto vehicle financing for
Mm-hmm.
40,000. Sears, I think you'd said for 20,000. Gas
Yes.
cards, fleet cards. So you've been able to get a little bit of cash credit. We talked about, which you said 7,000 at BJ's.
Yes.
So you've been able to get it all. You've been able to get store credit. You've been able to get fleet credit. You've been able to get cash credit. You've been able to get
Mm-hmm.
auto vehicle financing with limits, multiple limits, even over 40,000 as high as
Yes.
75.
Yes.
Awesome. That's great. And that's what kind of impact has that had as you've dove into and grown the
It
business?
it has really had a very positive impact because, we as a company are looking to expand, but sometimes, if you don't have that capital, even if you use somebody else's money to fund, and this is exactly what this is doing, using other people's money to make your business grow.
Right.
So there were times that if we didn't have that capital, we just didn't expand. And now that we have that, we have really expanded and grown. And like I said, we're ready to start purchasing buildings now. We're ready to start expanding the business, purchasing other businesses that are already functioning. We've even toyed around with the idea of purchasing another active trucking company as well.
Right.
So,
Wow. And all of this is without even talking about loans and credit lines. I mean, this is
mm-hmm.
just using business credit without a
Right.
guarantee, without a credit check to do all that you're describing, not
Yes.
even tying in loans or credit lines, which you said now with the established business credit makes it
Yes.
easier to obtain.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It
awesome.
does.
So, let me ask you this. I mean, along the way, what do you think? I mean, how's this experience been in working with us? How has it kind of changed your overall view on business credit? When you came in, you were probably pretty skeptical that this would even be able to really work for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, me and my husband hate the phrase "one more month." We're dead set against that phrase. I mean, you want to jerk our chain, say "one more month." Yeah, it's because that's all we heard was it'll be 1 more month for this, 1 more month for that, 1 more month for updates,
Right.
and I'm like, enough of the 1 more month. And then when we come in with you guys, I'm expecting to hear it'll take another month for this, it'll take another month for that. Yeah. And when we come in, it wasn't 1 more month. It was, okay, where are we at in this process? And I filled out this questionnaire, and because you won't let us go past the tiers that we're at. So
Right.
when it went through tier 1 through 3, I was like, holy cow, there's a lot of stuff we qualify for. So I'm sitting here flipping through it, going through, and because I would have Citibank pull, and it finally got to the point they realized who was on the other end of the line. They're like, well, let's just look at this, what we just pulled, because we don't want to pull another hit on your credit. They looked at it, and they're like, okay, I just got off the phone with, for example, for Shell, they said 15,000. I called Sunoco, didn't realize it was a Citibank card, and they're like, we just got off the phone with you. So,
With Office Depot and Staples are exactly the same.
right.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we just got off the phone with you. Okay, we'll see what you qualify for under this fleet card. And they come back 15,000 again. I'm like, sweet, here we go.
That's awesome.
So they didn't have to. The underwriter's like, again? So they're like, just give her the 15,000 and there we go, because they already had all the information. They just pulled the report. I don't recommend doing it that way, but
Right.
it worked for us. So,
So, a lot of people that we help come in as clients, and all this sounds really good, right? But
Yes.
they forget that it's a process. And, I think we live in a world where everybody wants that instant gratification. So,
okay, they do.
what's your experience been? Because it is a little bit of a process, you know, setting yourself up credibly, checking the business reports, getting those vendors. And you said, I don't need a bunch of money, you know, to buy toilet paper. So people kind of get frustrated there, and I think sometimes abandon the process. What's your feedback to people that are kind of getting stuck, hoping for that easy win? And that, you know, what's your feedback for, hey, what kind of commitment should you have to get through those initial steps to get to the reward that's on the other side?
Just take it one step at a time and don't try to rush it. There's no magic cure. There's no magic cure-all. I mean, even if you can personally guarantee your business, I would say great, but still do the starter steps. Don't skip steps. And that's what I was notorious for, because I had nobody to guide me. And I kept hitting brick wall after brick wall after brick wall, and it gets very frustrating. If you want to do Ty's program, go for it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, 4, and 5. And it will not fail. It won't if you do it that way. But if you don't, you know, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of heartache, a lot of frustration, a lot of pain, a lot of things you really shouldn't be saying. So you just got to take it one step at a time and not rush. This is not something that's going to happen overnight, but it's not going to take years like mine did. It will take literal, I would say the longest I've ever seen start to finish, depending on what you're trying to go for, I would say 6 months at the very, very max, because depending on what you're going for, what is your ultimate goal? But to get starter trades and get a DUNS number, 3 months is just 3 months.
Right. Which in the beginning, when you're trying to get a bunch of money fast, it seems like a lot of time. But what you're describing is a process where you're patient in the beginning. You go through the foundational stuff that helps set the foundation for you to get approved. And then you're just talking about a snowball of approvals that start to happen in later steps.
Oh, yes.
You just literally described a circumstance where you got off one and got 15,000, picked up, and it was then they're like, you just called us a different creditor.
Yes.
It's your, and they gave you 15, and then you said you just started rapid fire getting 10, 12, even 15. So it sounds like if you're patient in the beginning and willing to work through that small time where you're doing the right things to get your foundation built, then is that fairly accurate to what you described?
Yes.
The snowball effect of pretty much being able to get any of the credit that you need then as you build it down the road.
Yes, it is. And also too, you know, some of these cards, and I just want to let people know that, and that's another thing they'll be worried about, is it's not showing up, it's not reporting my trades or how much. These are not like personal credit where they'll put your trade line and what it is, how much you spent on there, what's your limit. They don't do that. The highest limits that they're showing online is what you spent on that. Your limit might be 20,000, 30,000, who knows? And you only spent 15. That's all they're going to post on your business credit, because that's what the highest limit you spent so far.
Right.
Now, unless you have like a vehicle financed, equipment financing, then they put the limit there and how much down.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to stress to people. You can't expect these trade lines to show your limits. This is personal. They won't tell you who it is.
Right. And this is one of the couple of things we talk about, you know, is that, and you go through the education or system of looking at reports for these reasons, because creditor names do not appoint. Credit issuers' names do not appear on a credit report. It's confusing to people. And what you think is a limit is the recent amount of credit you've used. So those aren't your limits. And a lot of times they don't even tell you what your limits are. You almost have to call and contact them to figure it out. So what Christina's saying is, don't be deceived by seeing what you've recently used and think that's your limit. That's not really your limit, but that's the type of thing that our advisors kind of help you through and go through that training with you.
Yeah, because I pulled up, you know, because with our Dun & Bradstreet program, we were able to look at a couple of trucking company peers and everything, and we pulled up a company we used to work for, and I looked at their recommended credit limit was over 600,000. I'm like, that's just ridiculous. And what they don't realize is the credit limits like that are real. They do exist.
Right.
And my other company, my Stables, is I only got 2 trade lines, but I've got it on my peer list under my trucking company. With just 2 trade lines in good standing, I have 37,500 limit, recommended credit limit, with just 2 positive reporting trade lines. So it is very real.
Right. And what people don't know is that that's what lenders look at. You know, lenders look
Oh,
at their score. They look at how many trades you had. They look at your recommended of credit,
mhm.
recommendation of credit, and that's what they make lending decisions on. And what you're saying is very accurate. What we see is that the recommendation of credit gets really high really fast once you
Yes.
follow these steps because you're getting approved for 15, 20, 40, even $70,000 limit accounts.
Yeah.
And a large part of that's because they're looking at your credit report and seeing that that's how much you're being
Mhm.
recommended for. What kind of recommendations are you seeing on your own reports now?
On which on the
I don't know.
business.
I mean, DMB, Experian, Equifax, the ones you've looked at recently, can you recall some of the higher recommendations for credit that you're being recommended for now from the reporting agencies?
For D&B, the highest one so far, right as it stands right now for our trucking company, we're recommended at 29,000 is the
Okay.
recommendation. But we've had approvals as you
Much
know,
higher, right?
thousand, way higher than that. So, and that's another thing I want to reiterate and stress to people. These are just guidelines.
Right.
Talk to them, call them. Don't apply online because then you're forced to give a guarantee. Always see what, go in, talk to them, call them on the phone. If there's an option to call them on the phone, talk to them. And sometimes they will increase the limit. If not, wait the 3 to 6 months, call them again,
Right.
reports again.
Yep.
And
And those
they'll
are
either,
exactly the tactics we teach our clients is go in and ask for more money. And what I
right,
found is just the minute you get an approval, even just by following kind of our steps to go in and ask for more, I found that sometimes 30% or more of them even will approve you immediately for more money, as much as I
right.
personally experienced 50% more than the initial approval just by asking, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, because when we got the TSC card, they said $1,000 limit. And I was like, oh, come on. Because I was on the phone with them. I'm like, look, I know you guys are Citibank. You've already pulled my credit before. Can you at least do 10,000? They said, all right, well, let's see. And they came back with an offer of five. And I'm like, hey, I'll take
Which
it.
is still 5 times more than they initially approved you for just using that tactic. Um,
Right.
Justine, I've loved having you on, Facebook Live on Periscope. I've loved you being a client and openly sharing. I've had the opportunity to have you on a webinar, and I really appreciate your time today. As we wrap up, let me just ask, I mean, what's your advice to people that are either skeptical that business credit might not work for them or are already clients even of ours, and they're in those beginning steps and going, oh man, I got to set up my business credibly and go through some of these annoying things at the beginning. What's your best advice for those people?
If you think this is a scam, look it up. Seriously, just look it up. Look up all the information that's out there. Dun& and Bradstreet's been out since, I'm going to say, beginning of time. I don't know.
That's 1841, so it's pretty
Yeah.
accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, so beginning of time. Um, just talk to somebody who's actually been through it. Don't make assumptions.
Sure.
And if you're frustrated, just take it one day at a time. Just calm down, relax, and know that it will get done. Sometimes you need to make a phone call and kick your creditor in the rear end and say, "Hey, let's get this in high gear." But also, too, remember some of these creditors will take 60 to 90 days to report. So BP takes 90 days to report. Quill takes 90 days. Seton is 30 days. Uline, Granger are all 30-day reporters. And some of these trade lines are use it or lose it. So, it's a learning process. Just relax and know that if you keep doing it at a steady pace, and like my husband says, check your reports, log in first thing in the morning, check it right before you go to bed at night. He goes, you run the company, you're 24/7, you are never off duty. Make sure if you don't see something, dispute it, contact the reports and see. And if that doesn't work, contact the actual creditor if you can and talk to them because they're always willing to work things out. With the business credit, it's much easier to work things out than in the personal. It will get done.
Christine, how have you liked the experience so far working with us?
Working with you guys has made it a lot easier. It has actually just made it so much easier. We've had a few bumps and bruises along the way, but you know what? Nobody is perfect. I wish I could say that my credit was spotless. And if yours is, congratulations, keep it up. But if you're like me, you kind of got the bumps and bruises along the way. It's a learning curve. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and just keep going because you guys have made it so much easier. You set out a foundation that actually works, and there's no real fast way to do it. It's all straightforward and go from there.
Christine, I appreciate you coming on with us today.
Hey, not a problem, Ty. Not a problem.
All right. Again, it's been really cool hanging out with you, and good luck as you continue to grow the business. I'm looking forward to seeing now that you've established 75,000, which is the highest I've heard of trade line. Now I'm looking forward to you beating that. I need 100,000 or higher.
Well, I'll tell you what, the property we're looking at, because it's considered a hard money loan, that's gonna blow that puppy right out of the water.
I expect that. That's my expectation to blow it right out of the water.
Yep.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time again. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
All right. Well, thanks, Ty. You have a good day.
All right. You too. See ya.
All right.